lamenting the pitfalls of being a Laker fan, but we're also going to talk about the pitfalls and avoiding the pitfalls in your retirement planning, and that's Dan Ohlweiler from Sterling Financial.
Yeah, that was a heartbreaker last night.
That was not fun to watch.
Yeah.
But people should be watching their retirement accounts, right, and looking out for some pitfalls, and we want to go through some of those with you today.
Well, I sent you over some information of things that people kind of maybe overlook in their retirement, you know, and the first one is not even having a plan in place.
Right, and no process to review things.
Right, I mean, for years, they've been working and accumulating all this money, and they don't really have a retirement income plan in place of how they're going to receive their monthly needs and things like that. And so not having a plan in place sometimes works, but it's not I can build a house without plans, but it probably won't turn out so good.
So if someone has like the assets, if they come into you and they have the assets to retire, they could do that, but there's just zero plan.
Right.
Is that something you say, okay, here's what you need to do with your properties here, here's what you need to do with these investments over here, and here's how we can make this a viable kind of...
Well, we kind of say, okay, what's your monthly need? Okay, what's our monthly need to maintain our lifestyle, our travel, and things like that? And if it's $6,000, $7,000 a month, where are we getting that money from? Do I have rental property, Social Security, stocks, retirement accounts, RMDs? All that comes into play, and you kind of need an income plan that's going to be consistent in the down years as well as the good years.
Right. The Social Security usually obviously consistent, and sometimes passive income from rental properties that can be pretty consistent as long as you have tenants in there. But the retirement part and the investment part, if you're whether you're tapping in the principal or you're just taking your interest allocations, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I would suggest that they go from the accumulation phase and the more protection phase, because losing money at this stage in our lives affects us much more than maybe making an extra point or two.
Right. So holding on to underperforming assets, that's our second one we want to watch out for?
Sometimes people say, well, I've lost so much money in this asset, or we can do some tax planning strategies where you take capital gains from one and offset it with capital losses from another. But, you shouldn't just because you've had this stock for 20 years figure it's going to be the stock that you need in retirement.
Right. It's kind of like a bad breakup. It's like, listen, it's time to, this relationship is not working for us anymore.
Exactly.
And what is it about? Is it really just people like, there's a sentimental value on it, or they just don't want to, for whatever reason, they just
My
feel like...
dad left me these stocks. I can't sell these things, okay? I inherited this from my uncle, and so, they've... people get emotional about stocks. I've had Apple since it was $5 a share, and now it's, whatever it is. And so they get emotional about that, and they have psychological blocks about selling that.
That's our third one, psychological blocks. Are there others that you find when people come in terms of the psychological blocks, in terms of...
Well, there's so much information out there that it's not true. I mean, we use a lot of guaranteed type things, CDs, annuities, things like that in our planning process to generate that income. People have psychological blocks about annuities. Well, some annuities can be very appropriate, and some have a lot of fees and are not so appropriate in retirement. Don't dump all of the same concepts into the same basket, because annuities can play a different part. So psychologically, they've heard never hold an annuity. Well, I hold annuities and I'm in the business, so there's some things that can be good about that.
Right. And do people come in terms of what they're thinking terms is like, well, this guy's making a lot of money over here. I think I want to put all my just hearsay kind of things from people who are just stories and anecdotes.
That's why you need a plan.
Right.
Okay. So your plan should dictate what you go into. If you want to have 25%, invested in the market and 25% in this or real estate or whatever, your plan ought to be dictating and just reallocating in those different buckets, so to speak. So, I mean, a lot of times you look at things and say, okay, the market is almost at an all-time high right now. you ask people, well, why don't you get out? Well, I don't want to pay the taxes. Well, I'd rather have a tax gain than a tax loss any day.
Right.
And if we never sell the asset at the top of the market, it's just funny money.
Right, it's just paper.
It can go back down just as quickly, okay? So we always say we should buy low and sell high, but if we never sell, it's just funny money, okay?
Right.
And so we feel real good when we open our monthly statement and the market's gone up, but if we don't ever take advantage of that, then it's just funny money.
Now, another one on our list here is ignoring tax implications in retirement, right? So a lot of people maybe have 401ks that they've been pulling money directly out of their monthly checks or weekly checks, and with pre-tax and going into those, that's going to come back.
A lot of people say, well, I'm going to start taking it out when I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. They forget a lot of times that tax bracket doesn't necessarily change because now they're getting Social Security replacing income, and they're taking out RMDs, and their tax bracket's not necessarily going to be lower. It could be, depending upon how much they made, obviously.
Right.
But you want to make sure that you're taking into account if you need $6,000 a month, that $6,000 need to be net, which means you probably need to take out $7,500 a month in order to offset the taxes.
Yeah,
So.
and especially if people are saying, well, I want to maintain the same lifestyle, I want to spend what I'm spending, then if your retirement income looks a heck of a lot like your regular work income, then there's probably going to be very close tax bracket.
That's part of the planning process,
Right.
okay? If I need $6,000 today, I might need $7,000 5 years from now, and $7,500 10 years from now. And
Sure.
so you want to plug your income planning into some type of inflationary thing to offset the things that we know go up. So your planning process, you would want to make sure that, your income is going to be growing at the same time.
Right. Now, has there been major adjustments to the inflation rate idea in the past years or couple years with inflation the way it goes?
Inflation obviously has been going on ever since COVID hit, okay? Prior to COVID, the government didn't dump all this money into the system and gave each of us all the free money and PPP plans that gave small business. Needless to say, inflation has been bad over the last 3 or 4 years. Going forward, it depends on how they treat things. It's obviously the supply and demand. The more money we have, the more inflation it's going to.
Right. So that's something to be aware of, most certainly. What about misconceptions around longevity? Like, how long do I have? The age of people are older and older as we go. Right?
The average age, if you were born in 2000, the average age is 79. Okay, 78 for men, 82 for women. Okay. When Social Security first started, our life expectancy was 66. So, we are living longer because of the medical advances. And so sometimes people say, well, I'll live to be, 85. Well, what happens if you live to be, 96?
Right. So that's where that. And then our final one is relying too much on Social Security.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Right.
50% of the people that are out there, Social Security is their main source of income.
Yeah, it's the sole.
And that's going to change. They're either going to have to make some adjustments or something along the line, and not having a plan to integrate Social Security into is going to be difficult.
All right. Well, we're going to avoid those pitfalls. Thank you, Dan Ohlweiler from Sterling Financial. Always great advice.
Good to be here.
You're watching This Day. We'll be right back.